Many of the victims had been taking shelter at the site due to torrential rains. Firefighters battled the blaze into the early hours while police and soldiers joined emergency crews in trying to rescue people trapped in the burning wreckage. Hospitals in South Korea have begun setting up temporary quarantine zones after an outbreak of Middle East respiratory syndrome. 2 South Koreans have died so far. The number of infected has risen to 30. What is known as MERS was discovered in 2012, but has so far mostly been centered in Saudi Arabia. And the virus acts like a cold, but attacks the respiratory system and can lead to organ failure. To Thailand, where insurgents detonated a bomb when a truck carrying soldiers was passing by, injuring 8 of those on board. This was the second roadside attack on the army just on Wednesday. 4 other soldiers were killed in Yala province after gunmen opened fire on their vehicle. The insurgents are believed to be fighting for an independent Muslim state. Widespread physical, emotional and sexual abuse suffered by Canada's Indigenous children in its so-called forced schooling system has now been officially branded as cultural genocide. Roughly 150,000 youngsters were taken from their families and incarcerated in the government-funded church schools throughout the 20th century. Thousands died from neglect and mistreatment, with many buried in unmarked graves. They were banned from speaking their own languages and forbidden from practicing their religion in an effort to force assimilation. The last of the boarding schools only closed in the 1990s. A 6-year-long investigation saw a government committee interview almost 7,000 witnesses. Here are some of their extracts.
Every day you were in constant fear, hoping it wasn't you today, the target, the victim, that you weren't going to have to suffer any form of humiliation.
Residential school was a very harsh environment. They treated us like criminals. It's like a prison. But we were small kids and we didn't understand. We didn't understand the harsh discipline.
If one child was caught crying, everybody was in trouble.
The historical facts laid out in the report resonated on social media. Many slammed such a practice of managing society as simply horrible. Others pointed out that Aboriginals still remain on the sidelines of Canadian society, with hundreds of Indigenous girls and women going missing in the country. One man told us about his experiences firsthand.
It's a great way to kill the culture, to kill the heritage. I was actually taken from my family. My mother, her mother, they were all part of this boarding school. I don't think the Canadian government wants to go too far into being culpable for their actions. The Native peoples, the First Nations people of Canada are so wounded and so very scared of the government. It's very hard for them to speak out. This is a social crime. The Canadian government is still taking Native children at an alarming rate. This is still the same form of genocide.
This breaking news just incoming here at RT International. Russia's presidential spokesman has said the recent escalation in eastern Ukraine is an apparent violation of the Minsk agreements, adding that Moscow is concerned about these developments. He said Kiev is ramping up tensions on purpose, citing previous examples when this has been done ahead of a major international gathering. The spokesperson believed to be referencing the upcoming EU summit in June. Well, this is RT International live from Moscow. We're back in half an hour's time. For now, though, Max Kaiser, the Kaiser Report.